My name is Elizabeth Gustin, but I go by Beth. And my profession is I'm a licensed mental health counselor. I was born 3.5 months premature, so I have retinal fibroplasia, which is more fun to call retinopathy of prematurity because it's just easier to pronounce. And what that means is I have no sight, so no shape, no color. I did have light perception till about 5 or 6 years ago, and that is also faded. Growing up, I did go to Anchor Center for Blind Children. I was their first graduating class. That was a huge help, I think, in getting me to be more on the same level as my sighted peers. And I also had a teacher for the visually impaired as well as an orientation mobility teacher for K through 12. So that definitely set me up for success, I think, when it came to college and grad school, where I did work with Disability Student Services to get the support I needed to be successful in academics. Being the only blind student in K through 12 definitely, I think, gives a different perspective. For sure helped me adapt to the sighted world. I feel like my parents did an amazing job of making sure that I had the support and the foundation so that I could compete with my sighted peers. And I think having that gave me the ability to then kind of present at the beginning of each school year to my class to say, hey, this is me, here's how I do things. If you notice me doing X, Y, Z, this is why. And I did that every year. And I think it helped destigmatize the disability. I didn't have the words for that back then, of course, but I think it really leveled that playing field, like, hey, I'm just like you, for the most part. So way back in 2008, I worked with the Beyond Vision program as a skills trainer, and then I became the program manager and began a life skills adjustment counseling program when I was there because I saw a need for mental health services that weren't being offered. And I left there in 2014 to pursue my passion, which is mental health counseling, because I wanted to do that full time. And so I worked at a couple of community mental health agencies. And then I have my own practice now, which I've had for about 4 years, and was able to circle back around when I began as a contract work for them, doing individual counseling services when they had a grant during the pandemic for that. And now I collaborate with them to run it twice a month. Don't let low vision get you down. Beyond Vision is primarily geared towards those 55 and over who are losing their sight, and it helps them learn the skills to become independent or stay independent. So whether it's cooking, technology, mobility, they do everything they can to help people stay independent in their homes. They run a lot of monthly groups, whether it's peer support, technology, the low vision support group. But I remember a lot of really positive feedback and just the clients having a place to go where they could be seen and heard, talk about the vision loss, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and have someone hold space for that. And I think the biggest, help for a lot of people is just knowing that they're not alone. It's funny, I kind of went kicking and screaming into seeing my blindness being a gift. But when I worked for CPWD, I realized it is, because I can use my experiences to help others adjust more fully. And I joke that just because I have visual impairment, I don't have to see every single client with visual impairment, because I don't, and they don't need me for that. But it definitely gives that relatability piece for those who would like it. I see an increased need in more mental health services. I see longer wait lists, which is a huge access to care issue. A lot of therapists are booked out. If you take insurance, oftentimes you're full with a wait list. If you work in community mental health, the caseloads are extremely high. And so oftentimes you don't get to see a therapist more than once a month. And so I definitely think the pandemic has highlighted what isn't working in mental health and where change needs to be made. But I do think we need more providers who would like to work all across the mental health spectrum. With community mental health, we tend to see what we call more severe persistent mental illness. In private practice, we tend to see clients who aren't in that category. And I think there's a need for, like I said, more providers who want to work in all aspects of the mental health field. So I specialize in grief and loss with an emphasis in what's called disenfranchised grief. So it's those losses that society usually cannot relate to or doesn't understand because they haven't experienced it. So we think about things like disability, losing an ability. We think about pet loss, especially as a lot of pet loss grief. We think about deaths by suicide or homicide, things like that, where it's not as common, fortunately, but also unfortunate because those people don't often have people in their lives who can understand or who can provide the support they need. So this is Manolo. He's my 4th service dog. He's the 4th one from Guide Dogs for the Blind. And we have been together since July of 2019. And I think about college kids or seniors where this is your only source of support. It's just you and your cat or you and your dog. You don't have a big circle of friends. You don't have a lot of support. This is your only person or only support. And when they die, that's your whole world. And so I want to just kind of highlight, this is why I think pet loss grief is so important, as well as service dog grief and emotional support animal grief. Because if that's your only source of support and that's taken away, you need support. And so I think it's just becoming more aware of all those different types of relationships. Like I said, service dog death is different because you have to grieve the retirement of that dog and decide kind of when is that time, and then you grieve a second time when that dog dies. With a pet, you're grieving as they age and when they die, but again, it depends on that relationship you have with that pet, and that bond you have is going to impact your grief process.